welcome to Women with Books. I'm your host, author Lindsay Emory. Whew. It's the middle of December 2018 that I am releasing this episode. And hey, how's it going? Happy holidays! I can't believe we are in the middle of another holiday season. In case you didn't know, I like to plan. I like to plan ahead. I like to have lists and I like to check them off twice. I'm still trying frantically to get all my shopping and planning done. I'm almost there. I have like 1 or 2 more gifts to get and then I am done. But, the problem with that is you're never really done, are you? Because the kids come in and they need a present for Coach or for a Secret Santa or for an exchange, or then the bus driver is coming through and you forgot you need to give them cookies. Yeah, it's just always something. But I'm trying to keep my head on straight and also give you guys this fun episode. I did this last year. I had some guests on to talk about their best of. So I had Teri Wilson on this year to talk about what we considered our best of 2018 lists and what we're looking forward to reading in 2019. And like I explained in the episode, these are really hard for me. Like I've got to come up with criteria because, every book that I enjoy is a best book, really, because it entertained me for a few hours. It made me think, it made me laugh, it made me swoon. And so narrowing it down to something that I can present in a podcast is really hard. So my criteria this year was kind of looking and seeing which books did I recommend most to people this year. And that could be people in real life, people on the podcast, editors, agents, whatever. Just things that either I couldn't stop thinking about or I thought other people would really like. Again, that's really difficult because, I read some amazing books this year, but then I just didn't recommend them to people for different reasons. Like I say on the podcast, I recommended one book a lot because I thought it would be a really good vacation read for a lot of people and, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm feeling a little guilt about this. I don't know. 2019, one of my goals, I'm trying to figure out everything right now, is to figure out how to get more recommendations to you guys. So if you like the list that Teri and I come up with in this episode, and I think you will because we talk a lot about our books, of course, but also other people's books. If you like that list and want to have it delivered straight to your inbox, I'm going to be putting more of the recommended book lists. I'm going to try and do all of them, let's be honest. Go ahead and sign up for my newsletter. It has a lot of great content. I always put links to all the episodes. I put extra Q&A that I do with the guests. And I'm going to put all the book recommendations in there. I finally figured out a good way to do it. So I can just send them straight to your inbox. You can click one click and then, be on your way with a really good book in your hand. So if you are driving someplace, please keep your eyes on the road, but enjoy this episode. If you are at home wrapping gifts, have a wonderful cup of hot chocolate and enjoy this episode of Best of 2018 and what we're looking forward to in 2019 with one of my favorite authors, Teri Wilson. Enjoy. Welcome to Women with Books. I am so excited to have Teri Wilson on today. Welcome, Teri.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. I have to say that once again, you are my most glamorous guest. Because when you were on the podcast earlier this year, we had to reschedule because I got a message from you going, oh, I can't do it this week because I'm on set with my movie. And then this week we were talking, you're like, oh, I have so much press to do about my movie because you have another movie coming out. And again, we were just talking and you're like, I was just on NBC. And so do you want to tell us what movie you have coming out?
Okay, well, first of all, I hope I don't sound like that when I say this.
You don't.
Because if I do, that's really horrifying.
Oh my gosh, my husband hates when I do voices. Yeah. Just you can join that club. I was just teasing.
Super mortifying. Although I was talking to my agent on the phone earlier this week, and she asked, I think she was asking me if I was ready for Christmas. And I have a manuscript due next Monday. And of course, I have the movie going on, which we will talk about in a normal voice. And I said,
I'll edit that out. I'm so embarrassed now.
I said, I'm not ready for Christmas at all. I haven't done anything. I'm going to do all my shopping next week after I get my manuscript turned in. And I said, and this week I've had a lot going on because of the Hallmark movie. And I finished talking and she said, oh, I'm sorry, just for a second there you sounded like Prince Humperdinck in The Princess Bride. When he's like, I've got my wedding to plan, I've got my fiance to murder. And I'm just like, well, I said, I do have a lot going on right now. And she said, well, so did he.
Oh my gosh. See, we're speaking truth to you.
It's like, keep me humble, people.
I know. But, we talk to you and you're like, I've got 3 books and a movie. I can't this week.
That's exactly how I said it. So I do have a movie premiering this weekend on the Hallmark Movies and Mysteries channel.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh, it looks so cute.
Oh, thank you. It's based on my book, Sleigh Bells Sweethearts, but the movie has a different title. It's called Northern Lights of Christmas, but it's the same exact story.
Why did they change the title?
You and my mom have, really strong opinions about that. I don't know. I don't know. When I was on set, they were still calling it Sleigh Bells Sweethearts because that's what all the stuff said, like all the production schedules. But Hallmark, they know their audience really well. And so I guess for whatever reason, they just thought Northern Lights of Christmas would be a better title. It's set in Alaska and it does have a lot of beautiful sweeping views of the Northern Lights. And so maybe they wanted to make sure that people knew that that's what they would get when they tuned in. Because
I am not second guessing Hallmark. It's just that I was prepping for this episode and I kept writing Sleigh Bells Sweethearts into things, and then I couldn't find it on. It's just those of us who know you and your book. We're the ones getting confused, but the rest of the Hallmark world doesn't care. They can handle it. Sorry,
I think it will be fine. Obviously it would have been great if it had the same title, but I was not upset by it at all. So it's going to be really fun. The premise of the story is that the heroine, Zoe Hathaway, is an airline pilot, and she's trying to save up her money to buy her own charter airplane. But a few weeks before Christmas, she unexpectedly finds out that she has inherited a reindeer farm in Alaska.
Ooh.
And it comes with a surly, brooding ranch hand, darn the luck. And he's, of course, also charming. But there's one reindeer in particular on the farm named Palmer that keeps escaping and causing havoc all over town. And that's kind of the premise of the movie. It's a really fun story. And Palmer the reindeer is my second most popular character I've ever written, behind Mr. Darcy from Unleashing Mr. Darcy. My readers loved him, so much so that I put him in 2 of my subsequent books, just like he had a little cameo. Oh. Always doing something, naughty because he's Palmer. But
Palmer the reindeer. I cannot wait to see this movie.
It'll be really cute.
I'm actually kind of annoyed because we have my husband's work party this Saturday, and I'm gonna be like, why can't I stay at home and watch my friend's Hallmark movie?
Well, you can record it, and it's also airing a bunch more times, including on Christmas Day. But in my head, I don't, like right now, I'm just concentrating. It's Saturday night at 8 o'clock Central Time,
Yes.
So, but on all my social media and stuff, I'll definitely be posting the schedule of all the other times that it's airing as well.
Now, did you get to go to the set of this movie, you said?
I did. I was on set for 2 days in late September, and in fact, I was on set for the final 2 days of filming because I was out of town. My son is an English teacher in Korea, and so my husband and I had gone to Korea to visit Cameron, and they started filming while we were there. So by the time I got back and got to Canada, it was just right near the end of production, but I was still really excited that I was able to make it for a couple days because I like to be on set. It's really fun. Writing is so solitary, and making a movie is the opposite of solitary. So it's a big team effort, so it's always fun to be able to experience that.
That's so, like I said, glamorous. glamorous life, Korea, and then back to your movie set. And you've got are you releasing 2 books this year too? And this month?
I have 2 December releases, yes.
Oh, okay. So
it's crazy.
I love it. I love it, though. I mean, you can't really complain about it. Do you want to tell us about those real quick?
Well, just, I write for Harlequin Special Edition, and my latest book for them came out on December 1st, and it's called A Daddy by Christmas. It's a marriage of convenience story, which I've never written one of those before, and I really, really wanted to. So I was excited to do that. And it's great because the heroine is a Rockette in New York City. But at the opening of the book, she's a disgraced Rockette because the book opens right after the Thanksgiving Day parade, the big Macy's parade, and the Rockettes are always in the parade. And they do that toy soldier number where they all like fall down like dominoes. So she messed up the toy soldier routine on live television and caused a big disaster. And so she's been demoted, and she still is considered a Rockette, but she's not performing. They make her wear a reindeer costume and pass out flyers in Times Square to get people to come to the show. So that's what she's doing, and she's having a terrible Christmas because of this, humiliation. So she wants to adopt a puppy at the animal shelter. She's been visiting this dog and helping take care of it. But when she shows up to adopt it in her reindeer costume with bent antlers, because she's been outside all day, this brooding billionaire he's grieving, actually. He's oh gosh, I love the hero in this book. He's trying to adopt the dog at the same time. So it's the 2 of them, having a little war in chapter 1 over this dog. And that's the meet cute. But it's very quirky. It's full of all sorts of quirky holiday goodness, but it also really pulls at your heartstrings because he's caring for his niece who has recently lost both of her parents. And so it's got, all the feels and a lot of really cute, funny moments too.
This sounds like another Hallmark movie waiting to be made.
We'll see. That would be great. I would love that.
Palmer, is she dressed up like Palmer the reindeer?
Yeah, we're going to put a name tag on her that says Palmer the reindeer.
That would be your fans would love it.
They would love that. That's hilarious.
And then your other book that just came out last week is The Accidental Beauty Queen.
Yes, so excited about this book. Yes, I'm sorry.
Really
you can talk about it because you read it.
No, I have read it. I got an ARC. I stole it from our signing in Denver last July, and I think it was one of the first books I read once I got back home. And I think I texted you while I was reading it or right after I finished it, because I just couldn't get a smile off my face. Like, just thinking about this book makes me smile. And it is like Miss Congeniality mixed with Parent Trap?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you could probably do a better job of explaining, but it's like, no, I'll do it. Let me try. So there's twin sisters, and one of them is a beauty queen, and the other one is a librarian. And the beauty queen is a pageant queen, and she is doing what's the pageant name?
It's Miss American Treasure, because you can't use a real beauty pageant in a book. And man, when I was trying to come up with a fictitious pageant name, that was the hardest part of writing that book, because there are so many pageants out there.
Were you Googling and being like, oh, dang it?
Yes, I was. Like every single one. I was like, no. And so I came up with Miss American Treasure, and I was telling my husband when I was doing all the Googling, I was like, I guess I'm going to have to use that one, even though it sounds more like a Nicolas Cage movie than a pageant. And I was like, oh, that's a good line. I'm going to put that in the book. And I did.
So the librarian sister comes to support her pageant queen sister. And the pageant, it's in Orlando, because the librarian sister basically just wants to go see the world of Harry Potter. And while she's there, the beautiful twin has an allergic reaction, her face puffs up, and she begs her librarian sister to take her spot in just the preliminaries.
Right.
So that she can get, and she can get to she's like, I'll be better by the time the finals roll around, just take it through the preliminaries. And hilarity and love and laughter and friendship and sisterhood and a very, very cute dog, which has to be one of your calling cards at this point.
Yes.
ensue. So did I get it right?
You did. There's also hijinks. All of those things. Plus hijinks.
Pageant hijinks. And a little romance.
Yes.
A little romance.
Of course.
But I've actually been I don't know if I told you this. I've actually been recommending this book to my friends who have teenage daughters.
Oh, yay.
Who also love your Hallmark movies and love Hallmark movies. And I think it's a very good crossover for those moms and daughters who are enjoying Hallmark movies and also want to read this book because I think it's very appropriate for teenagers, don't you?
Oh, I definitely think so too. It is. I think it is definitely teen appropriate. It's it's sweet, feel good story. My favorite thing is that people have been saying it's very woman and girl positive, because it could have been so easy, to have Mean Girls in a book that has like tons of female characters because it's set at a pageant, and I very purposefully did not want to do that. So I'm really happy that people are noticing it and that they like that part of the book.
Honestly, I really appreciated that too. And I could see it. I mean, it's fair if you're writing about a beauty pageant, if there was being some witchery in there and, some backstabbing or whatever, that could have been done okay. But there really wasn't. And you have the sister who's I don't know, the impersonator sister,
Charlotte,
really does learn that these girls are, not girls, these women are supportive and smart and admirable in all the ways, and that they're really just trying to build each other up. And I love that part. That's what I'm all about too.
Well, I did that on purpose because, I got the idea for the book because I was a judge at a national pageant last year, the Miss United States pageant, which is the pageant that's in the Miss Congeniality movies. It's actually a real live pageant, which I had no idea. It's the same crown and everything as in the movie. They just don't sing that song, which was a disappointment because I wanted to hear that. She's beauty and she's grace. Although the signs all say she's beauty and she's grace. She's Miss United States. And so I was a judge at that pageant. The director of the pageant is a big Hallmark fan and reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be their celebrity judge. And I said, sure. And so I knew that I would have to plot a pageant book after that. And I got the idea for Accidental Beauty Queen while I was there. But that was my experience because I had to, interview all the contestants in all the different divisions. And so I chatted with 150 women competing in the pageant. And they were all so impressive. That was my big takeaway, is how much volunteer work all of those women do and how they're all just really positive. And I didn't see any mean girl behavior at all. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted the book to be that way, because I wanted it to be kind of a reflection of my real experience being involved in that pageant. Have
any of the pageant people read the book, or have you given it to them, or have you gotten any responses from them about it?
Not right now. I've gotten a lot of people saying, oh, how exciting, that kind of thing, but I haven't talked to any pageant people who've actually read it, but it's only been out a week and a day. So I'm hoping that I will. I've judged 2 other pageants since then in the Miss America system, because now I'm all into it. I think that it's so much fun. So anytime anyone asks me to judge a pageant, I'm like, yes, I'll do it. So hopefully I'll be hearing from them. I do have a little collection of beauty queens with their crowns on holding up the book, and I need to start posting those on social media because those pictures are really fun.
Yeah, so. I remember you doing it. You posted some, I think, when you judged the last time in October, was it? Or? Yes. Yeah. I don't know what else. You don't have anything else to do, Teri. Can you please post some more on social media?
I know, that's the thing. In fact, I was telling my agent in that same conversation where she was telling me I was Prince Humperdinck. She said, you should repost those pictures. And I was like, I will, but this week is I'm promoting the movie. Next week I'll get back on that and I'll post all those pictures.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be fun.
Well, I thank you so much for taking some time to do this today. And actually the real reason why I had you on was because I like to wrap up 2018 with, or the year, to talk about what the best books of the year were, or your most enjoyable, or whatever your criteria are. And I thought, Teri is really busy, so of course I want her on. So I asked you, and you said yes, and you have prepared your list. And I asked for top 5, but I really honestly did not think you were going to be able to keep yourself to top 5. But now you're saying you have a top 5. So if you need to add some more, I understand.
I do have a top 5, but I have like a couple others I have to mention before I talk about the top 5.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Let's hear it.
So you want me to go ahead and tell you? All right, so do you have a list too? Because I'm really curious if we have crossover on our lists.
That would be fascinating. Yeah, so what I did was, it's so hard to come up with a list. So my criteria were, because I don't know, who am I to say what a best book was? So I came up with, what did I recommend the most? And again, this is kind of, I didn't keep score. I didn't do a little hatch mark every time I recommended a book. But I know there were certain books that kept coming up in conversations with friends, family, readers. And so that was kind of how I did my list. So, you're so legit. This is how I did my list. Okay. Because I put not everything, but almost all the books I read, I put on Goodreads because I had a goal to read a certain number of books this year. Oh yeah. So I opened up my Goodreads challenge and I looked at all the book covers, and the ones that made me go, "Oh, that was such a good book." Those were the ones that I wrote down. That is as good a way of doing it as any.
It was good though because I was able to really see, what I read this year. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, before I get to my top 5, I have to say that I totally would have put The Royal Runaway by Lindsay Emory on my list, but I didn't want to look like a huge, kiss-upper person, so I just have to give Royal Runaway a shout out because I blurbed that book, because I loved it so much.
You did, thank you, and I so appreciate it.
Love, but I didn't want to be a dork and put it on my list.
For a record, I wouldn't have thought you were a dork.
Oh, dang. Then let me boot someone off the list. But anyway, I loved that book so much. So yay, that one. And then another book that I really loved this year was Suddenly Single by Julia London. But full disclosure, I was the editor on that book. Because Julia self-published that book, and she asked me if I would read it, and edit it for her, so I did. But not line edit, just content editing, that kind of a thing. But anyway, I didn't want to put a book on the list that I had anything to do with. So it's not an official pick either, but I did want to mention it because that book is so cute. The hero is Scottish, and the heroine is American, and she never stops talking. It's the most rambling heroine I've ever read, and it's hilarious. Her monologues crack me up. So I really liked that book. So I just wanted to mention that one too, even though it's not one of my 5.
Okay. I totally understand why.
You're right. Okay.
It's like when you judge the Ritas, you have to take yourself out of judging the things that you edited, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, Julia entered that in the Ritas for next year, and I want her to final so bad because I was like, that would be the best if we won together as editor and author. That would be my perfect fantasy award win.
Oh, that would be.
Wouldn't it be great? It'd be so fun. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay, we'll put that out there.
Okay.
All right, you want to go ahead?
Okay, my first one on the list, and I know I'm late to the party on this book. It may have actually come out before 2018, but I read it in 2018, so it's on my list, is The Hating Game by Sally Thorn.
Yes.
Have you read it?
Uh-huh.
I love that book. It was
game changer.
So good. Really, it really, really was. It was so well done. I mean, workplace romance, and they hate each other, obviously, hence the title. But I just loved it. I loved their banter. The heroine's kind of nerdy and collects Smurfs, but wears cute dresses all the time. Love that.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I loved the dialogue in that book. The whole thing, I just thought was great.
Yeah, it totally had earned all of its accolades.
For sure. So, and then I also have a book that I just finished reading yesterday, I put on the list, and that is The Christmas Sisters by Sarah Morgan.
Oh, I just started that last night or something. Night before last. Yeah, I got, and of course I saved it for bed, and so I was like, I've got to go to sleep, but I think I got a few chapters in, and it was so good already.
Okay, then I have to be careful with what I'm saying, because there is a moment in that book where I was like, what? And that's when I put it on the list, because it's just really good. Well, I love Sarah Morgan. Sarah's actually a friend of mine, and I've read her for a really long time. She used to write super, glamorous books, dramatic books for Harlequin Presents. And I love Harlequin Presents. They're so over the top. It's like soap opera over the top. But for sometimes that's what I'm in the mood to read. So I loved it when she wrote for Harlequin Presents. And then she started writing single title romance, which I also really liked those books. But this is the first one of her women's fiction books that I've read. And I honestly think that she's even better at writing women's fiction than she is at romance. I really think she's hit like her sweet spot with her women's fiction books. But I really liked this book. I loved the relationship between the sisters. It's set in Scotland. I loved the setting, but then there's also a surprising moment that really, to me, elevated it to a next level type read.
Oh, can't wait.
I know.
Got to keep reading.
You're going to have to tell me when you get to it. So
okay.
Yeah. I have a lot of romance and women's fiction on my list, by the way, because that's like my favorite thing to read.
Oh, yeah,
so that's what almost everything on my list is. I also have on here Hot Asset by Lauren Lane. Have you read Lauren?
I have before. I have not read this one. And
okay.
I was kind of holding my breath as you said the title.
My husband mocked me endlessly when I read her Wall Street. And it's her Wall Street series that she wrote for Montlake. And the first one is called Hot Asset, and the second one is called Huge Deal. And every time I picked up one of those books, my husband was like, oh my God. I said, hey, they're cute titles. I mean, because all her guys are Wall Street guys. You know, they're stockbrokers and they'll work for the same firm. But honestly, I would read anything that Lauren Lane wrote, like even her grocery list, because I just like love her to death. So, and I'm in the middle of reading an arc of her 2019 release, Central Park Pack. And it is going to be really good, but I felt like I couldn't put it on the list because I haven't finished it. So, But I had to have one of her reads on the list because I love her. And in this one, the hero is a stockbroker, and the heroine is the SEC investigator who's investigating him.
Ooh.
Right? Isn't that the perfect combination? I mean, because obviously they start out with a really, with having a really feelings of animosity between the two of them, but then they both fall for each other, and it's such an impossible situation. I just loved it. It's true conflict,
because those
not
aren't
contrived.
jobs you like just walk away from.
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
I don't have to be your competing chef. I mean, these are jobs where you're like, oh, I've got my life wrapped up in this right now.
Right. And the heroine, her parents are both FBI agents, and she's trying to get like promoted to the FBI. So she, has to really, do a good job. So it was a great book. I loved it. And so then what else do I have on here? Oh, so I have these side by side because even though they're not really totally alike, they're kind of similar. I love the UK. I mean, so a lot of my reads, like The Christmas Sisters, takes place in Scotland, and my last two are both in England because I loved going there. It's one of my favorite countries to visit. Well, actually, my favorite country to visit is England. I just love it. So I have My Oxford Year by Julia Whelan. Whelan?
Yeah.
Have you read that? It's really good.
No, it's on my TBR list. I have it. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Good. And I think that all of us Anglophiles here in the United States that love the royals, we always fantasize about what it would be like to go to school in Oxford, and that's what she does.
Right.
She's a grown adult she's working in politics, and then she finds out that she's gotten a scholarship, for graduate school at Oxford for a year, and she just like totally leaves her life in America and goes there for 12 months, and all sorts of things happen. I know, and so it was so good. I just loved it. And then next to that, I have One Day in December by Josie Silver. It also took place in England. That's the new Reese Witherspoon book club pick for this month.
Yes.
But I read it a couple months ago because they had arcs of it at RWA in the goodie room, and I liked the cover. It had one of the little red mailbox things, so I was like, oh, I'll pick this up. And to me, it was like a cross between that book One Day and Love Actually, because it takes place in London. There's a nice cast of friends, kind of like in Love Actually, but it takes place like over 13 or 14 years, I think. It's like during the Christmas season, and it'll skip to the next year, and then the next year, and the next year. And it's great. I will say, because I really liked the book One Day. I know a lot of people, especially in the romance community, hated it because, the heroine died. And in the movie, it was Anne Anne Hathaway. I went to see it with a friend who hadn't read the book, and she was like, oh my God, did Anne Hathaway just get hit by a truck? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what just happened. But spoiler alert, this one has a happy ending. It's not like that at all. But I say it's like one day because it's, it's one time of year, over a long period of time, the same time of year every year. But I love it. It's a really good read.
I picked that one up at RWA too, and then I think I was like, oh, this is a Christmas book, so I'm going to save it. And then I forgot about it, and then Reese Witherspoon put it out as her book club pick, and then some friends were like, oh, we all got this at RWA, and I thought, oh, I got that at RWA. So I dug it out again, and so I was saving that and the Christmas Sisters for this month. And so I'm like, I just looked at the calendar this week and realized, oh, I'm halfway through December.
Get to read.
Yeah. Hence me opening up Christmas Sisters, and hopefully I'll get to one day in December as well. And there are so many good days in December, hopefully, to read. But I'm excited to get that one. It's got such a great cover, too. It just looks happy and...
Oh, I know. And, it came out in the UK before it came out here. And I mean, even after it came out here, I think it was doing okay, but it was a huge bestseller in the UK. But then Reese picked it here, and of course now it's a big bestseller over here, which is great. I think a lot of people wouldn't have picked it up if she hadn't recommended it for her December read. And it's a really good book. I really liked it a lot. Yeah.
Well, that is 5. Is that all you're going to do?
That's it. Okay. I had my two preliminaries, and I have my 5. Those are my 5 favorites from this year.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So I have to say I had more than 5 because one of them is, now I'm the big dork, but seriously, Teri, the Accidental Beauty Queen has to be on my list because I just recommended it to so many people in real life, and I was gushing about it, and it has put a smile on my face, and it's going to be a reread for me eventually once I get through all these other books, because it's just a beauty of a book. So thank you for writing it and putting it out there.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, now that's my dorkiness. And so I'm going to actually go back to, I guess, one of my first ones this year, which was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I have recommended this to so many people, and actually taking a step back, all of mine this year have been pretty much like women's fiction-y books, which I think this is the first year that I've done that. And I don't know if that's like been a change in my reading, because I've read a bunch of romance books that I really liked this year, but I don't know, maybe just none of them were ones that I was recommending to people as much. So, but Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote this book, and it is like old school. It's like an Elizabeth Taylor type main character who was a star in the 1950s and 60s, and she keeps getting married to all these men, and it's kind of dual timeline in that it keeps flashing back to the present to a reporter who is doing like a Vanity Fair type piece on the actress, and it's something unlike anything else I'd read lately. Just a really good, I don't know what the word is. I want to say like a broad of a story,
I've read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taylor Jenkins Reid is an auto buy for me. I always read her books. I really like. My favorite one of hers is Maybe in Another Life. That's my favorite book of hers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sliding doors kind of thing. But yeah, I really liked it too.
Oh, thank you for saving me then.
Yeah, I did. No, I really liked it. It was good.
And then the next one that I recommended to so many people, because I am the same as Reese Witherspoon, was Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. And again, it was one that I just keep going back to and thinking about. And that's another thing where if I keep going back in my head to scenes in the book, to places in the book, that to me is something where it keeps coming up and I want to recommend it to people. And that, of course, is a dual timeline historical women's fiction between Cuba and current day America, or current day American who goes back to visit Cuba. And of course, that was a Reese Witherspoon pick, and Chanel was on the podcast. So,
oh yeah. Now that book has a stunning cover. It is gorgeous.
And did you see the next one?
Yes, I have, and I have not read it, which is crazy because I've read almost every single Reese Witherspoon pick, but I haven't read that one, and I know someone who's really good friends with her, and they write together a lot, so I need to read it. I have it, but I just haven't read it yet.
You'll like it. It's just the good historical women's fiction. And then, so speaking of which, the next one I have was Island of Sweet Pies and Soldiers by Sarah Ackerman. And again, this was historical women's fiction set in World War II, but the twist for this one, which is why I recommend it to a lot of people, was it's set in Hawaii. So it's World War II, it has like things, but it's not, like, I think the rest of the World War II women's fictions are set in Europe, or maybe in America, maybe in other parts of America. I haven't seen any other that are set in World War II or in Hawaii that deal with Japanese internment issues, that deal with Pearl Harbor, Japanese invasion. And this one is just, it's not super heavy in that there's some quirkiness to it that I really, really, really enjoyed. And again, I recommended that one to a lot of my friends. I had my neighbors went to Hawaii. I know someone else who moved to Hawaii, so I was like, hey, read this book.
I haven't even heard of it before. I just wrote it down so I could look it up. I have to say, when you brought up Japanese internment camps, I really didn't think you were going to say it was humorous and lighthearted. I mean, that seemed pretty heavy.
It is, and I mean, it's a well balanced. I mean, it's not like, someone's being sent to Japanese internment camp. Yeah. It's like, we're dealing with these issues, but this is also like some quirky sides of life of having like the Marines in our town, and it's like it feels like a very old-fashioned kind of book in that way, and that it can kind of handle a lot of different a little bit of romance, a little bit of family drama, a little bit of mystery. It has like a lot of different threads that can run through.
And the best books are the ones that make you laugh and cry, I think.
Yes.
I like to have that whole spectrum of emotions when I'm reading.
Yes.
So, good.
So the quirkiness aspect of this one is something I think you would also enjoy. It has to do with an animal.
Oh, okay.
A lion, in fact.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm putting an asterisk by it. I wrote it down.
You enjoy the animals, and so that's the part that really brings like this extra. You're like, there's a lion, and they explain it in the book why the lion is like a mascot for the Marine unit that's stationed there, and so it kind of becomes a symbol for the soldiers, and it's just really sweet.
How great is that?
And then another book, this one was straight up rom-com, and I had this writing duo on my podcast, Christina and Lauren, and I teased them because they had like 16 books out this year, and they objected to me teasing them, and they were like, no, it's only 5, but...
There are 2 of them, though.
I know. So there were a lot to choose from Christina Lauren, and everyone's got a favorite. My favorite this year was Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. It was... I
totally read that.
It made me laugh and cry, and I recommended it to a bunch of people, including a lot of people who really love K-pop, which I don't... I think I might have told you about it because of that too.
You did, because like we said, my son lives in Korea, and I think when we were in Denver at RWA, you said, oh, you have to read it because it hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
And as soon as you told me that, I asked my editor for an arc because I was like, I have to read this because the hero's Korean.
The hero's Korean, and his parents are Korean, and they talk a lot about Korean food, and I was like, well, sure, if you like Korean food, read this Christina Lauren book.
I did. I totally read it, and then I went to Korea and had a bunch of the food. So I really like that book. I love Christina Lauren. My favorite read of theirs this year was Love in Other Words. I loved that book.
Which I have heard so many people recommend. And it was just like, again, unless you are not reading anything else but Christina Lauren books,
I know.
Get to all of them.
Right. But I mean, you will cry your face off when you read Love in Other Words. So
I
just
need to
be prepared.
I need to be prepared for that. Okay.
Right.
So, and then one of my number 5, if I don't count Accidental Beauty Queen, or number 6, would be The Phantom Tree by Nicola Cornick. And that one came out, I think this August or September. Again, I had an arc. I'm not really sure. I've talked about it on the podcast. I've talked about it with a bunch of people. It is dual timeline, time travel, historical mystery with a couple of romance subplots. So of course I love it because it blends like 6 genres together. But it was really good, and I'm really looking forward to her next book, which I just got the arc for, but I don't have the title of right now. Sorry, I'll have to look it up. So that is my list, but that actually kind of brings me into, because I wanted to kind of talk about I wanted to talk about the books I'm looking forward to in 2019, but then I realized some of them are all, I'm looking at my list right now, some of them are all just kind of more books from the same authors we've talked about. So Chanel Clayton has a new book coming out, the next Cuba book. Taylor Jenkins Reid has a new book coming out. Have you seen this one? Since you're a favorite fan?
No, I have not.
Daisy Jones and the Six. And
I have seen that one. It looks like it has a music theme. I haven't read the blurb.
Yeah, I have the arc for that too, and I haven't read it yet. That's going to be, I think, a January read after I get done with all these Christmas books. Sarah Ackerman has another historical Hawaiian fiction. Sally Thorn has a new book coming out.
That's the one I have like written down and circled 10 times. When you said, what am I looking for? I was like, well, I know Sally Thorn, 99% mine is on my list because I cannot wait to read that. No. Do you have an arc? Oh my God, you lucky thing. No, I've pre-ordered it, but I don't have an arc.
I cannot wait to talk to people about this because I feel like, again, she's a game changer, and I don't, as a writer, I'm trying to like pick it apart and be like, how is she doing this?
Oh, well, I almost feel sorry for her because, the first one was so great. I was like, how is she going to follow up with that? But I know it's going to be good. I just know it is because the first one was just so well written. It has to be.
I did cry on this one. But here's the deal. And this is why I need to talk to people about it after you've read it. Because I cried, but I was sick in bed. So to the extent that perhaps my emotional state was not a normal emotional state for me, I'm like, I don't want to tell people this book will make you cry. Because, again, like I was sick and exhausted. So I need other people to read 99% Mine by Sally Thorn.
I will totally do it.
Cry or not.
I will read it, and you can even invite me on here, and we can like pick it apart because I can't wait.
And then the other book I cannot wait for other people to read is Julia Kelly's The Light Over London.
I have it, and I haven't got a chance to read it yet, but that is going to be my Christmas holidays book because I can't. I mean, I have to read it before everyone else does. That sounds terrible. I don't want to wait till it comes out because I want to make sure that I can be talking about it, and tell people all about it, when it comes out, so I can help with her release. But I know it's going to be amazing.
It's the hardest thing to not talk to people about it. I actually had her. She's going to be on the podcast again the week that it comes out, but we already recorded it, and it was all I could do would be like, but because I really need to record these things with people after the book has come out and give people like 2 months to read it, and then we'll have the author on and we'll just share all the spoilers and everything. Because it's so hard not to talk about spoilers and, oh my God, I love that twist, or that thing, and I don't know how should I do that. I don't have a spoiler podcast alert. But then I don't know. I don't know what else is coming out in 2019. It'll just
Lauren Lane's Central Park Pack, her first women's fiction trade paperback, comes out in May. But that's the one I'm reading right now. I mean, I just started it yesterday.
Really cute, girly cover, right?
Yes, it's so cute. And this is not giving anything away because I'm only 2 chapters into it, and it literally happens on the first page. But it's about the series is about 3 women who find out that they've all been dating the same man, except one of them is actually married to him, and they all find out when they all show up at his funeral when he dies.
Oh,
Yes, and she has such great humor and banter in her books, and they're all very, New York City.
Funny? I don't know.
That's why I'm throwing that out there so people don't think it's like super heavy, because she definitely has a trademark sense of humor, but her books are they're all set in Manhattan, and they are all kind of glamorous. So it's just such a fun read. I love her books. So it'll be fun. I think that she's going to reach a whole new audience with her first trade paperback. So, but that's in May.
That'll be fun to watch. And then after that, we'll be headed to New York. Are you going to RWA Nationals this year? Next year?
Yes. Remember, you and I submitted a workshop together, so we'll both. So hopefully we'll both be there. Well, we don't know if it got picked yet, but yes, I will be there. I will be there.
If it doesn't get picked up, we won't go. Is that what we're doing?
We're going to boycott it.
No, because we have to be in New York, and we have to be all glamorous and fun.
I do apparently. So yeah.
Yes.
But, no, I'm for sure going. I'll be there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we'll pick up new books, and then we'll talk about them this time next year.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about all this, and good luck on a crazy, crazy December. But it really could not have happened to a nicer, more talented author than you, Teri.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And maybe we will do this again in 2019. Who knows?
I'd love to. Yeah.
I know. Thank you, Teri.
Okay, thank you.